of contrast. So one of the signals that we can use in paragraph of comparison is the use of adjective and propositions. So this is the structure. We may use degree of comparison, that it is not mandatory. You may use it or you may omit it using the words such as exactly, almost, practically, something like it, that show the degree of comparison. Then we use same as the adjective and as a proposition. So if we want to, let's say, write a sentence talking about similarities between Kennedy and Lincoln as two US presidents, for example, we should write it in this way. We are going to discuss about this point that both presidents killed at the same time, the same day and the same time. So we say Kennedy was killed on exactly or almost or practically. It's based on the degree of comparison we are going to show. So was killed on exactly the same day of the week as Lincoln. So this structure shows that we are discussing about similarities between Kennedy's and Lincoln's death in terms of time and day of the death. So this is one of the signals. So that we may use degree of comparison plus same as adjective and as proposition. So this is a typical sentence for using this structure. The other structure that's somehow similar to the same one and using adjective and proposition is this one. Again, you may use degree of comparison, somewhat, rather, very, quite, or any other word that refer to degree of comparison, then using similar as adjective and to as proposition. So let's say using similar to in that as another structure. So the same sentence shown by the first structure can be shown in the second structure in this way. Kennedy's death was somewhat similar to Lincoln's in that. After in that, we need an independent clause or full sentence. In that, they both died in office. So actually, they both died in office is the area of comparison, or let's say basis of comparison. So you should pay attention to this structure, Lincoln. We should omit parallel structure. So here again, we will not say Lincoln death. Otherwise, it is not acceptable in academic writing. Because of that repeated in the in the beginning of sentence, we deleted for Lincoln as a parallel structure. So it is the second signal similar to in that we can use it in comparing two person or to ideas, to concept, to object, everything. And another a structure using adjective and proposition is like in that. So up to now, same as, similar to, in that, and like in that. The previous sentence can be rewritten by using like instead of similar to. And no other differences will happen. So Kennedy's death was somewhat like Lincoln's in that they both died in office. Again, death in office is a basis of comparison, means the aspect that Kennedy and Lincoln are comparing to. So they are all group one signals, means using adjective and proposition to compare two person or two things. But we have another structure also by using like. One of the structure, as we said, like in that, and the other structure similar to this one. We say, like Lincoln, Kennedy refused to heed his secretary's warning. So actually, refused to heed his secretary's warning is the basis of comparison, or the aspect that Kennedy and Lincoln are both compared to, and both have similarity based on this aspect. So we use like plus one of the subject or one of the two things, persons or ideas or concept that we are comparing. And the second sentence, actually it is not sentence, it is a kind of phrase like Lincoln. But the second part will be an independent clause. Kennedy refused to heed his secretary's warning. So, so based on this structure, basis of comparison is refused to heed his secretary's warning refer to both persons, Lincoln and Kennedy. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 different structure to use adjective and proposition to show comparison of two things or person. The second group for the signal is attached statement. We call it attached statement. It is the use of and to, and another structure, and so. But as you see, they are used differently, and to, and so. So let's see. We want to say that Kennedy and Lincoln both succeeded by a Southern Democrat. How to show it? Uh, so succeeded by a Southern Democrat is actually basis of comparison. So we write the first sentence fully for Kennedy. Kennedy was succeeded by a Southern Democrat, comma, and Lincoln was too. So the second concept or person that we are comparing plus auxiliary verb, and after that, at the end of the sentence, we will use to. So Kennedy was succeeded by a Southern Democrat. Be careful about punctuation here. We should use comma, comma, and Lincoln was too. The same idea can be reflected by using and so. So let's see. Again, we write the first sentence, or what happened to Kennedy. Kennedy was succeeded by a Southern Democrat. Here, comma, and so was Lincoln. When we use and so, first we need auxiliary verb based on the first part of sentence, and then second object or second person that we are comparing. So these are two attached statements as the second group of signals, and two that between we have second object or person, auxiliary verb, and then two, or and so after that auxiliary verb and second object or person that we are comparing. So let's go to the next one. But we need to work on this structure. Another example, let's do some more exercises for and so and to. For example here, Kennedy could arouse the sympathy of the public, comma, and Lincoln could too. As we said, after second subject, we need auxiliary verb, not main verb, based on the first part of sentence. Since the auxiliary verb is could, it is reflected in the second part. So, or the other structure by and so, Kennedy could arouse the sympathy of the public, comma, and so could Lincoln. As we said, after and so, we need first auxiliary verb and then second subject or person. Another example, Miss Kennedy witnessed her husband's assassination and Miss Lincoln did too. As the sentence is in simple past, so auxiliary verb that we should use in this structure would be did. So we are just talking about how to select appropriate auxiliary verb for the second part of sentence. So second object or person, auxiliary verb to, or the same sentence again by and so. Miss Kennedy witnessed her husband's assassination, comma, and so did Miss Lincoln. So we are talking about this point that both Miss Lincoln and Miss Kennedy witnessed their husband's assassination. So it is a kind of comparison based on similarities. And the last example is referred to let's say another structure in this group, and either or and neither. They are used when our sentence is in negative uh, form. See, Kennedy's assassin was not, because of not, it is a negative sentence, was not brought to trial. And we want to say that Lincoln assassin was not brought to trial too. We want to say they are let's say, comparing Kennedy's assassin and Lincoln assassin based on this point that none of them brought to trial. So how to say for and either, again, we say second object or second person that we are comparing a negative auxiliary verb. So was not. And since was not is also compatible or consistent with Lincoln, no change happened. So we say, and Lincoln, that refer to Lincoln's assassin. Again, assassin is omitted as a parallel word or parallel structure. And Lincoln wasn't either. So, and either is something similar to and to based on the structure, but the auxiliary verb should be in negative form, and either is used when we are using a negative statement, a negative sentence. So let's say the same sentence by using and neither. Here we say Kennedy's assassin was not brought to trial and neither was Lincoln's. So neither and neither is a structure similar to and so, but it is used in positive statements or, sorry, in negative statements or negative sentences. So after and neither, comma and neither, we have here positive auxiliary verb because neither itself is negative, so no need to write wasn't, was Lincoln. Lincoln again refer to Lincoln's assassin, that assassin omitted based on the parallel word. So some more examples again with different auxiliary verb. For example, Kennedy's secretary couldn't prevent the president's assassination by and either we say and Lincoln, that means Lincoln's secretary couldn't either. Auxiliary verb in negative form and either at the end. Or Kennedy's secretary couldn't prevent the president's assassinations and neither could Lincoln's secretary, that we use short form Lincoln's. So after neither, we need positive auxiliary verb. We said because neither itself is negative. Uh, so the other one, Kennedy didn't finish his term of office and Lincoln didn't either. Another example, the same sentence, Kennedy didn't finish his term of office and neither did Lincoln. So there are some examples to practice this structure. The third group of signals for a paragraph of comparison is the use of correlative conjunction. Correlative conjunction means the using both and both or neither nor or just as so that we will discuss one by one. The first one is very simple, using the structure both and as a correlative conjunction to show similarities between two person, two concept, or two object. We may use it in this way. For example, for Kennedy and Lincoln, we want to say for both of them, the election legally challenged. So how to show this idea? We say both Kennedy and Lincoln had their elections legally challenged. The same sentence can be rewritten in this form. Kennedy and Lincoln both, so both and both. Kennedy and Lincoln both had their election legally challenged. They are the structure that we can play with. We can write an academic text, um, let's say, by using different structures. As I said, another structure for correlative conjunction is the use of neither nor, as we work on in a sample question, if you remember. So we say, for example, neither Kennedy's wife nor his children were expecting anything unusual to happen that day. So expecting anything unusual to happen that day is the basis of comparison. We want to say Kennedy's wife and Kennedy's children were expecting anything unusual to happen that day. So how to say by using neither nor? Neither Kennedy's wife nor his children were expecting. As we said before, the subject refer to nearer, the verb refer to nearer subject. Or let's say verb should be consistent with the noun after nor. So because of children, his children, we say were. Uh, but if we change the sentence in this way, neither Kennedy's children nor his wife was expecting, because it should be consistent with wife, was expecting anything unusual to happen that way. As you see, we use neither nor to compare Kennedy's wife and the children, and to say that both didn't expect something unusual to happen. So the other structure in a correlative conjunction group is the use of just as so. So let's see here. Here we are going to compare Lincoln and Kennedy based on their death in presidential office, in the office. We want to say both of them died in their office. So how to say, after just as and so, we need a full sentence, or let's say an independent clause. So the idea that is reflected in the first sentence should be reflected in the second one, but in, let's say, different words. Means we should say, here we said, just as Lincoln died in office. After comma so, we should say that Kennedy also died in office, but by rewording the idea, rephrasing the idea, using new words to show or imply the same meaning. So as you see here, we said just as, comma, so is the structure. After so, we said Kennedy was still president when he was assassinated. So this sentence, was still president when he was assassinated, is totally similar to died in office. But we use, let's say, new wording to imply the same meaning. So it is the third group, correlative conjunction. This fourth group is the use of verb, what we call it predicate structure. We may just use a verb to show that we are comparing two person or thing based on similarity. So the verbs are resemble or to have something in common, or there are similarities rest of sentence. These three structures. The last two structures to have something in common and there are similarities are very good structure to formulate topic sentence for a paragraph of comparison. So let's see how we can use them in examples. For example, here, again, for the verb, we may use degree of comparison, for example, closely, greatly, unclearly, vaguely, or any adverb that refer to degree of comparison. Here we say Kennedy's popularity closely resembles Lincoln's. That means Lincoln's popularity. So it shows that we are comparing Kennedy and Lincoln based on their popularity. So this is the basis of comparison here. So we use a predicate structure or verb to show similarities based on two persons, Kennedy and Lincoln, and the basis of comparison is popularity. The same idea can be reflected in this form. Kennedy resembles Lincoln in that. So sometimes we may use verb plus in that. Kennedy resembled Lincoln in that they were both popular presidents. So if you look at this structure, one of them is more complete than the other. Which one? Actually, the second one. Why? Because we are providing more information in the second structure. The new information here is president. In the first one, we said Kennedy is similar to Lincoln based on popularity. But someone may ask popularity in what? So if we use where plus in that, after in that, we need a full sentence or independent clause. So we can provide more information. Popular president. We have new information here. So based on the type of sentence or the type of comparison you are going to write, you can use each one of these two structures. So the other structure for predicate is writing this, using this structure have, using any one of these words, such as certain, many, several, that show degree of comparison, then the words such as things, features, aspect, characteristic, qualities, attitude, it is based on your topic sentence, what you are going to compare between two persons or two things. And then the word in common. For example, we say, for the first one, we said, Kennedy and Lincoln have many features in common. It is a very good structure as topic sentence for a paragraph of comparison. After that, each one of the majority of sentences we will discuss about one of the features that Kennedy and Lincoln have in common. The other structure, there are similarities between. It is another structure, as predicate structure. So certain, many, several, or two, a degree of comparison can be used voluntarily. It is not mandatory. You may use it or you may not use it. So we may say there are certain similarities between Kennedy and Lincoln. Again, a good structure for topic sentence in a paragraph of comparison. So let's go to the fourth group. The fourth signal is the use of sentence connector to show similarities between two persons or two concepts or two objects. So what are the sentence connectors used to show similarities? They are similarly, correspondingly, likewise, in the same way, or by the same token. They are sentence connectors that shows we are talking about or discussing similarities between two concept or person. So let's see how we can use it in an example sentence. Lincoln was succeeded by a Southern Democrat named Johnson. Because of sentence connector, before we have semicolon, and after sentence connector we need comma, as we said in other types of paragraph. So semicolon, similarly, comma, Lyndon Johnson, a Democrat from the South, succeeded Kennedy. So see, uh, here we are talking about the same degree of comparison. So what is the same degree of comparison? Succeeded by a Southern Democrat named Johnson. We want to say Lincoln and let's say Kennedy succeeded by a Southern Democrat. So we use a sentence connector. First, we use the, let's say the first sentence, Lincoln was succeeded by a Southern Democrat named Johnson. In the same manner, similarly, Lyndon Johnson, a Democrat from the South, succeeded Kennedy. In order not to use the exact word as the first sentence, we change a Southern Democrat to a Democrat from the South. So we are playing with the word in order to avoid repetition in the structure or sentences. So no difference between different sentence connectors we have here. Similarly, correspondingly, likewise, in the same way, or by the same token. So each one of them can be used in the sentence. And the last signal to show comparison between two ideas, concept, or person is the use of punctuation. We will not have anything else. Let's see. Here we said Andrew Johnson was born in 1808. And now we want to say Lyndon Johnson was also born in the same decade. So we use semicolon. Lyndon Johnson was born in 1908. Based on the sentence, when we know that we are comparing these two persons based on similarities, when we say 1808 and 1908, the reader understands that we are comparing these two persons based on the decade, the similar decade in which uh, they were born, but not discussing about similar centuries, because the centuries is different, 18 and 19. So it refers to the common part in both uh, in the year. So 08 or 08 in the second one and 08 in the first one refer to the decade. So it showed we are comparing this person based on the decade they were born in. Here, as you see, was born is a parallel structure, was born repeated in the first part. So this one can also be omitted and the sentence can be rewritten in this form. Andrew Johnson was born in 1808, semicolon, Lyndon Johnson, comma, in 1908. So was born can be omitted as parallel structure and it can be replaced by comma. So both structures are correct, let's say academically correct, and academically used in articles or manuscript that are prepared for let's say to be published in a journal. So let's see a sample paragraph based on the structure and the concept we work on. See, are you aware of the striking similarities between two of the most popular US presidents, Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy? So actually it is a topic sentence in the form of a question. So what are we going to discuss about? Similarities between two of the most popular US presidents. So view the structure, there are similarities between to formulate topic sentence. Between two US presidents, this person and that person. So the first sentence here is the, let's say, major supporting sentence number 1. So we say a minor point is that the names Lincoln and Kennedy both have 7 letters. So as you see, uh, it is one of the structures we discuss about using and both. So the first major supporting sentence formulated by the structure and both. We said the names Lincoln and Kennedy both have 7 letters. The first similarity. Next one, both men had the election legally challenged. The other one using both again to show similarities. So the election legally challenged is something similar between both presidents. So Lincoln and Kennedy are both remembered for their sense of humor as well as for their interest in civil rights. Again, using both to show similarities between these persons. Next major supporting sentence, Lincoln became president in 1860, semicolon, Kennedy in 1960. As you see here, we use only punctuation to compare these two presidents. But the comparison is based on what? Based on the similar section in year is 60. So this sentence wants to say both of them became president in the same decade. Not the same century, the same decade. Again, another major supporting sentence. Here, as you see, we don't have any minor supporting sentences, but they can be added in order to explain each one of major supporting sentences. So next major supporting sentence, Lincoln's secretary was Miss Kennedy, semicolon, Kennedy's secretary was Miss Lincoln. So as you see here, again, we use punctuation. Again, we use punctuation to compare Kennedy's secretary and, let's say, Lincoln's secretary. The next major supporting sentence, neither man took the advice of his secretary not to make a public appearance on the day on which he was assassinated. So to compare two persons that both of them believe in a specific idea, we use neither here. Neither man means none of them took the advice of his secretary not to make a public appearance on the day on which he was assassinated. So it showed that we are comparing both persons based on this idea that they didn't pay attention to the advice of their secretary regarding not going to a public place or not appearing publicly. So next one, Lincoln and Kennedy were both killed. Again, using and both, the structure and both to show similarity. Were both killed on a Friday in the presence of their wives. Next major supporting sentence, both assassins, John White Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald have 15 letters in their names. Again, using both to show similarity, but what? Between what? Between the number of letters the assassin of Kennedy and the assassin of Lincoln had. Both names had 15 letters. And both were murdered before they could be brought to trial. Again, using both to show comparison based on this point that none of them could be brought to trial before being murdered. Another major supporting sentence, just as Lincoln was succeeded by a Southern Democrat named Johnson, so was Kennedy, using just as so a structure as we explained before. And the last major supporting sentence here, or the last similarity between this person, Andrew Johnson was born in 1808, semicolon, Lyndon Johnson was born in 1908. Again, we are talking about the decade when they both were born. That is the same, 08, 08. Even in this structure, we can omit was born as a parallel word and replace it by comma as we explained before. And finally, as you see, finally was a kind of a listing signal for enumeration paragraph. If you remember, we said listing signal for enumeration paragraph can appear in all other types of paragraph. So, and finally, it showed we are going to discuss about last major supporting sentence or last similarity between this person. The same person carried the bodies of both men in their funeral procession. So using the structure same to show similarity. So actually it is a typical paragraph to discuss similarities or comparison between two persons or two things based on the structure we discussed before. So if you have any question up to here, I finish the structure for paragraph of comparison. I'm going to start paragraph of contrast. So any question related to the first part of, let's say, our lesson, let me know.
Yeah,
Okay, so yes.
Reza, in terms of the comparisons, yeah, using both, yeah, is it possible if we use the same structure, both and most of the time in one text, like the example here,
Not
both men.
most of, not most of the time. You should try to use a different structure. But actually, as you see in this paragraph, that is a long paragraph, we use all a structure with some, I can say nearly all a structure. So some of them use several times. But if you have the choice to use each one of them in a different structure, it would be better to do so.
Okay, so meaning that it is not the same, but uh, what is it? Different, yeah, structure actually. But
Exactly.
okay,
As far as it is possible, you should try to use different structures. But sometimes you use all a structure and you are going to continue your paragraph. There is no other choice. You may use again some structure repeatedly. No other choice.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
You
Uh,
continue.
no question. So we'll go to paragraph of contrast. So for paragraph of contrast, it is clear we are going to discuss about differences between two persons, two ideas, or two concepts. Maybe the commonest one and the simpler one is the use of comparative adjectives to say that two persons are different from each other in a specific aspect, for example. So group one signal is the use of comparative adjective, for example, than, more than, less than, or the structure as. So let's see how we can use them in example sentences. For example, we are going to compare introvert and extrovert. Introvert, a person who pay attention to, let's say, thinks inwardly, and extrovert, a person who thinks outwardly. So we may write in this form: the introvert is quieter than the extrovert, or the introvert is more reliable than the extrovert, or different ideas based on what you want to say. The introvert is less optimistic than the extrovert. Or you may use this one: the introvert learns more slowly than the extrovert. They are all the use of a comparative adjective to show differences. But what about as? If you use as a structure in negative form, it is used actually for contrast, for discussing differences. For example, the extrovert isn't as quiet as the introvert, or the extrovert doesn't learn as slowly as the introvert. So as you see, between as, we should use adjective or adverb based on the structure. If you are using to be as this one, between as when is adjective. But if we are using any other verb, for example, learn, we use adverb between as. But if we use it in positive sentence, it is a structure for to show similarities. For example, the extrovert is as quiet as the introvert, means both of them are the same. Both of them are similar in this aspect. So using as with negative verb shows differences. The other group is proposition. So let's see. Using unlike or contrary to or as opposed to show differences between two concept or person. For example, unlike the extrovert, comma, who craves excitement, the introvert likes a well-ordered mode of life. So as you see, here we have dependent clause, but it is not mandatory. For example, we can say, unlike the extrovert, comma, the introvert likes a well-ordered mode of life. But if you are going to provide more information, you may add a dependent clause for the first part between two commas and provide more information. No difference between propositions. You may use unlike, contrary to, or as opposed to. Or as opposed to the extrovert, comma, the introvert like a well-ordered mode of life. So what is the basis of comparison? Craving excitement or like a well-ordered mode of life. Actually, these two refer to basis of comparison. So it was the second group using proposition to show differences. The third group is the use of adverbial clause by using whereas, while. Let's say in this way: whereas the extrovert loses his or her temper quickly, the introvert seldom does. So a basis of comparison is quickly and seldom. One of them lose temper quickly, the other one lose temper, will not, let's say in this way, will not lose temper quickly. So this is the structure, or using while the extrovert loses his or her temper quickly, the introvert seldom does. See, in any circumstance that it is possible, in any condition possible, you should try to omit parallel structure. Here, loses his or her temper, replaced by the verb does, in order to prevent parallel structure. Instead of saying the introvert seldom loses his or her temper, we say the introvert seldom does. So it is very important to prevent parallel structure whenever possible. We should not repeat them. So the fourth group is the use of verb or predicate structure or verbal structure. So the verbs such as contrast with, differ from, or to be different from are used to show differences, So we may say in this way, the introvert contrasts with the extrovert in regard to or in respect to his or her temper. So pay attention to this point. The verb can be used with in regard to or in respect to, that after it we need a phrase, or the verb can be used with in that after it we need um, a full sentence or independent clause, similar to this one. So let's see. The introvert contrasts with the extrovert in respect to his or her temper, or in regard to his or her temper. One structure or the same idea can be rewritten by this structure. The introvert contrasts with the extrovert in that the extrovert seldom loses his or her temper. As you see, when we use in that, we will have more information available in our sentence. Because after in that, we need an independent clause. So here we said they differ based on their temper. But based on which aspect of their temper? Here we said losing temper. So using in that provide more information. But sometimes you are going to provide more information as minor supporting sentence. You may use this structure in regard to his or her temper, and in the next sentence as minor one, discuss that this one lose his temper quickly, but that one will not lose the temper quickly, for example. So the more information will be provided as minor supporting sentence. Otherwise, you can provide full idea or complete idea based on this structure and say losing the temper at the same sentence, not in an extra or additional sentence as minor supporting sentence. So the fifth group is the use of sentence connectors for paragraph of contrast. But sentence connectors for paragraph of contrast include however, on the other hand, in contrast. These are three academically acceptable sentence connectors for paragraphs of contrast. For example, we may say the extrovert loves crowd. Pay attention to punctuation, semicolon, however, comma, the introvert is fond of solitude. So one sentence provide information about extrovert, and the second sentence provide let's say opposite information about the introvert. Loves crowd, fond of solitude. They are against each other and they are basis of contrast. So no difference between sentence connector here. You may use however, on the other hand, or in contrast. Just pay attention to punctuation before semicolon, after comma. But if you finish the first sentence, instead of semicolon, we may have full stop, however, by capital H, comma, then the second sentence, another choice. We discussed about sentence connector that they may appear in the middle of second sentence even, means after the subject for second sentence. See, we may rewrite the same sentence connector in this form. The extrovert loves crowd, semicolon, But instead of the sentence connector, we start the subject in the second sentence, the introvert here, the introvert, semicolon, the introvert. Now we add sentence connector between two commas because it is not part of the second sentence, but we added it in the middle of second sentence. So semicolon in its place, but we start the second sentence. The introvert, however, is fond of solitude. Two commas for however when it appeared in the middle of sentence, but semicolon appeared between two sentences in its own place. The sixth group is the use of conjunction. The only conjunction that can be used to show differences is but. It is used by a comma before. For example, the extrovert loves crowds, comma, but the introvert is fond of solitude. Love crowd and fond of solitude basis of contrast, and we show the contrast or difference by using conjunction but. Before it we need comma. And similar to paragraph of comparison, we can show paragraph of contrast. We can show contrast by using punctuation only. See, when we use punctuation in this form, and when we are talking about differences, the introvert likes books, semicolon, the extrovert is fond of people. Or the same sentence before, the extrovert loves crowds, semicolon, the introvert is fond of solitude. As you see, we don't have anything between two sentences except punctuation, semicolon. Again, we may, let's say, delete the similar part. For example, in this sentence, the introvert likes books. For the second one, we want to say the extrovert likes people. So like as a parallel deleted in this example, the introvert likes books, semicolon, the extrovert, the second like omitted and replaced by a comma, the extrovert people, means the extrovert likes people. So it is also a structure that shows differences. So punctuation only is used in both paragraph of comparison and paragraph of contrast. But how we can identify whether this punctuation shows similarity or contrast? It is based on the paragraph. When in the previous sentences on following sentences, we are discussing about the differences using punctuation shows we are talking about differences, otherwise similarities. So they are all a structure that are used in paragraph of contrast, but they need practice. We should practice to use them frequently in our writing and to use them, let's say, differently actually in our writing. Means we will not, let's say, stick to one structure in all major supporting sentences. Use one of the major supporting sentences, write one of the major supporting sentences using conjunction, the other one by punctuation, the other one by other structure we discuss. So let's see this sample paragraph for paragraph of contrast. According to Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung, every person's personality can be placed somewhere on a scale running from extreme extroversion to extreme introversion. So it shows that we are going to discuss about differences between an introvert and an extrovert. It is a topic sentence. So now let's see how we develop topic sentence by major supporting sentences. The the typical extrovert is particularly fond of people and people-oriented activities. He or she is sociable So we are talking about people-oriented activities. What do we mean? We mean he or she is sociable, likes parties, has many friends, needs to have people to talk to, and does not like reading or studying alone. The typical extrovert, on the other hand, is a quiet, retiring sort of person, introspective, fond of books rather than people, and fond of books rather than people. As you see here, first we discuss about some characteristics of an introvert, and then the typical extrovert first. The typical extrovert is or having this characteristic, and then we started by discussing about characteristics for a typical introvert. So this is one way of developing paragraph of contrast, mean talking about everything related to typical extrovert, the first person or thing, and then talking about the opposite characteristics for a typical introvert. This is one formula to develop paragraph of contrast or even paragraph of comparison. But let's see what happened um, in the other part of this paragraph. Unlike the extrovert who craves excitement, so it is dependent clause between two commas, who craves excitement, takes chances, and is generally impulsive. So this part from who up to impulsive is dependent clause. So unlike the extrovert, the introvert shuns excitement, takes matters of everyday life with proper seriousness, and like a well-ordered mode of life. So as you see from here, unlike, we started one-to-one contrast, mean talking about each characteristic between two persons in a single structure by using preposition unlike. But in a previous sentence, we discussed about everything related to the typical extrovert first, and then the opposite idea for the typical introvert. From this sentence, unlike, we change the format in contrasting two persons or two ideas using one-to-one contrast. So let's continue. Here we use another structure, let's say adverbial clause using a whereas. Whereas the extrovert tends to be aggressive and loses his or her temper easily, the introvert tends to keep his or her feeling under close control, seldom behaves in an aggressive manner, and does not lose his or her temper easily. So in this sentence, we contrasted extrovert and introvert by using adverbial clause. The next major supporting sentence, the introvert is more reliable and less optimistic than the extrovert. Here we use comparative adjective to show differences. Another structure. Let's see next one. The extrovert may often be subject to criminal or psychopathic behavior, in contrast to the introvert who may exhibit neurotic tendencies. Again, we use in contrast, another structure. Let's see next major supporting sentence. A further difference between the two involves the ability to remember. So difference between, similar to similarities between, another structure, difference between. Studies have tended to show that the extrovert learns faster than the introvert, but in the end, remembers less. Actually, here we merged or mixed two structures using comparative adjective, learn faster than, and then using conjunction but to show another let's say, basis of difference. So it is a typical paragraph for contrasting two person or two things. Any question related to this section?
No, I think.
Okay, so we finished all major types of paragraph for, let's say, article writing or essay writing. Hopefully, in next session, we'll work on sample sentences we had in, let's say, Word file that refer to common mistakes that may happen in writing. And after that, we'll discuss essay writing, how to join different types of paragraph we learned up to now in order to form an essay. Because in article writing, we will work on actually it is a kind of essay writing. So how to join them to be, let's say, cohesive and logical, how to logically and cohesively join paragraph in order to form an essay. So if you don't have any question, we can finish this session right now and start essay writing in next session, hopefully.
Okay. Uh, um, yeah. So next meeting we will have essay writing, Reza, with the participants. So they can share also the writing here on the
Sure, sure.
Zoom meeting or okay.
Yes, in Zoom meeting, and after that we'll have some sample paragraph or sample essay that will try to find out the mistakes happen in writing, to identify the mistakes or how we should correct them. So it helps us to know how
Okay.
to start writing for journals, actually.
Okay. Okay. Good idea. Maybe Nida wants to raise questions.
No, sir.
Okay. I think that's enough, Reza.
Okay, so see you next week, hopefully.
Okay. See you. See you.
See you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.